Good morning, everyone. Promised that I'd do a little video on some agar. So I'm going to go over some of the stuff that I like to use. Basically, for your agar, I've found that this 250 gram pack is going to be the best bang for your buck per gram. Works great. Haven't had any problems with it. I've got a couple bags of some light malt extract. You want to make sure that it's light though, because the way it breaks it down, if you get regular malt extract, it doesn't break down as easy from the mycelium, so the light is the way to go. This and some of the other stuff that I've gotten is I've been able to get it for pretty cheap, you know, $5 for some of it, 15 for some of the rest, from your local brewery store. So you're literally getting, like this one says Pilsner, you're gonna make a Pilsner beer, but it's just malt extract, no big deal. As far as my nutritional yeast, I use the Servomyces, which is, it's like, I got it for like $15. I think you can get it for 11 or 12 online, but it's a single grain nutritional yeast. I'll get into a little bit of detail on this here in a little bit, but this, in my opinion, is probably going to be the better stuff to use over like the nutritional yeast that you're going to sprinkle on your popcorn, stuff like that. We're going to use some potatoes today, and we're going to use some fermented, this water is from fermented wood chips, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. Why I use some of the products that I do. We went with the fermented wood chip water because some of the wood species on agar have not worked for me very well. They've taken 2 months. I'll show you some examples. I've got like your King Stropharia. This is 3 or 4 months old. It's taken forever to even show anything on agar. So that's the reason I'm changing my recipe. Same thing with lion's mane. This one is months and months and months old. Another thing with the lion's mane, some of you are asking how is it a month old without fruiting in the agar. A theory that I have anyways is that the Servomyces is used, it's a single grain yeast. So with this being as good as it is, I believe that when you put this in your agar, that it's basically the mycelium is not going to get to a point for a while where it's going to think it's out of nutrients and it's time to fruit. So that's why I use the Servomyces. It seems to be doing really, really well. Also, if you look at the little scooper in there, if I can, you can see the end of it. This is 10 milligrams. According to the package, you use a full 10 grams for a hectoliter of water. So you do the math, and this comes close to 10 milligrams per 1 cup of water, roughly. So that's why I use that. We're going to the potatoes. I poured the water in with the potatoes. So we're going to get some of the nutrients from the potatoes as well. I've heard that some of the wood species actually like using, they do pretty well with the potato water agar that you might have heard. So we're going to do both. So, okay, so this is, we'll get into why I like doing it this way. So this is when I dumped the water back into the jar that was, so this is the mix of the fermented wood chip water that I used to boil the potatoes, and then I put back into the jar. So if you look at the jar, you can see the measurements on the side. So we got 16 ounces, so I'm going to make basically 2 cups, which is what, 500 milliliters. So I like using this jar. Also, it helps to super saturate the mixture. So I've got the heat on and put my ingredients in there. Hopefully, I'm trying to get a pretty clear formula. So if you super saturate it, should work a little better. One thing that you want to note is the mouth of the jar and the fact that it's a bigger jar. So do a little experiment when you're doing this and try your jar. Put some water in it, pour it out. See if it's going to give you any grief. Like if I take one of these jars, I'll show you. So if you take one of these jars, you fill it up, and you go to pour it, and you see how some, like, especially if it's more full, like let's say it's completely full, and you go to pour it, and you're pouring, you see how it wants to drip down the jar. So on the bigger jars, it doesn't do that. So just try to experiment and give it a little forethought. We're going to go into the recipe. We're going to go 10 milliliters each for each cup of water. So we're going to go 2 of these, or I'm sorry, 10 milligrams. We're going to go 1 tablespoon of your light malt extract and 1 tablespoon of your agar per cup of water. So 2 of this and 2 of this, and that's pretty much it. We're going to super saturate this mixture, get it to where it's as transparent as possible, and then once everything's in the jar and it's nice and clear and I've got it mixed up really good, it'll go to the pressure cooker. So, alright, so here we are. I've got my agar mixture right here. I basically used a skewer as it was boiling on the stove, just stirred it. So hopefully again, nice clear petri dishes. I don't like wasting pressure cooker space, so we did some liquid culture water. I used the fermented wood chip water again with the potatoes, boiled it up. It was pretty dark, so I actually diluted it by half. So hopefully the mycelium doesn't get too clumped up in there. But yeah, get some liquid culture going, get some agar going.